Welcome back to another episode of The Grapevine. My name is Susan Salib, and I have with me today
Karen Fikri,
Yvette.
And today we have a special guest with us, and we're going to be talking about the American Coptic Orthodox Church. Welcome, Amuna.
Thank you so much.
This is Father Maurice Ibrahim from St. Athanasius in Orlando, Florida. So tell us a little bit about the American Coptic Orthodox Church. It's been a long road. I know that it's kind of evolved, and they've gone back and forth, and there's like a lot of things that we want to ask you about today. If you could tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So the idea really started in North America around 12 years ago. The first church that was considered Canadian/Coptic was SMSV, St. Maurice St. Verena in Toronto. This is the first idea of how, the two cultures may not, be together, and they should be separated. And there's a Coptic Orthodox church that's designated for the Canadians, or the second generation Egyptians. So this idea kind of started around 12 years ago, but now kind of filtered into the US. And then we have a lot of other churches that kind of carry the same idea, where the culture, if it was a barrier before, we're trying to create a cultured church that actually is catered to the host country that we're in. So the American Coptic is really catered for the Americans in the United States. So, and then from there, our aim, His Grace's aim is to have at least one major American Coptic church in every major city within the diocese. So we started, the first church within our diocese was St. Paul in Houston, and then we also have St. Verena in Tennessee. We have ourselves in St. Athanasius in Orlando. We also have a church, St. Mark in Atlanta, that just had their first liturgy last weekend. We also have Archangel Michael in Phoenix that also started, and I believe we also have St. Marina in Dallas. The idea is to have at least one in each of the major cities and obviously major states that we have within the diocese.
Wow, so how many do we have?
So I think we're aiming to have at least 8. I think that was His Grace's original plan, to have 8. I think we're getting there for at least one in every major city. I think there's one that we're planning to have also in southern part of Florida and one in Tampa. My vision is that it'll probably be more than just one, 5-10 years from now, hopefully, and will be a trend from there on.
That's amazing, because when I was reading about the history of the church, it was saying that they wanted to have, His Grace Bishop Yusuf was saying 8 in 2015. So it's amazing, that we were able to establish that and get that, set up. So what are the major differences? I know you mentioned the culture, of course, or like English speaking, right?
Sure.
But what would be the major differences between the American Coptic Orthodox Church and then our traditional Coptic Orthodox Church?
Wonderful question. So there is no difference when it comes to church rites, dogmas. Our faith is the same. We're all under one diocese. The differences that you'll see is in the cultural aspects of the church. So for example, in St. Athanasius, we don't speak anything in Arabic, whether inside the liturgy or for any of our services. You'll see that more of our servants are the second, third generation Egyptians. They themselves don't speak Arabic. Most of us are young families that have pretty much grown up here. You don't see us a lot talking about Egyptian politics and Egyptian culture. Even the type of food that we're eating, we every now and then we get a mix of Egyptian food, but the norm is that we're pretty much Americanized from that sense. But it has nothing to do with the actual church. It almost has to do with the culture of the people that are coming in.
Okay. So it's basically a little bit more inviting, possibly, to the people who grew up here, and Arabic is not their first language.
Yeah, the best example I could give is that a lot of times you go into everyone's home and you sense a bit of a difference, a bit of a cultural difference within everyone's home. We could all be Christians, but we all have different homes and different styles of doing certain things. It's almost like that when it comes to the American Coptic Church. When you come in, you might not find that things are the same as a typical church because it's all English speaking. We have a bit of Coptic as well in the liturgy, but it's not a predominant language. The idea is, if we're trying to really cater to an American, if they come in and they can't really understand what we're talking about, then we're actually putting them off from our orthodoxy. And we're trying not to ever do that.
So I have a question in regards to that, because some people might think of it like, wow, this is such a great idea. Like, you're going to cater to the new generation, and that's what we really need. But one question that comes out a lot is that shouldn't be all churches like that? The church is in America. Technically, you're supposed to be for English speaking.
Sure.
And like some people might wonder, like, okay, does that mean like you're gonna actually separate the families? Like the young ones gonna go to the American Orthodox Church, and the parents or the grandparents gonna go to the Coptic.
Sure. Egyptian, yes.
Like, so sometimes, like, that question arises a lot, and it's a heartbreaking seeing that we live in America, and technically you're supposed to have all churches catered, right, to
Yes.
everybody, America. Like, if you go to China or Japan or whatever, right, it's supposed to be like that. But I feel like it's a question that arises a lot. Is that going to cause separation in the family?
So ideally, as a church, we're trying to help everyone that is coming from Egypt to assimilate with the culture and to kind of continue in their maturity curve to be, as Americanized as they can be. I think the problem is that whenever we say Americanized, people associate with something negative. Americanized or Egyptianized, that means you are part of that country. We need to get over the idea of you could be a good Christian, good Coptic Orthodox Christian that is American. A lot of times people can't comprehend that, but the two can coincide. So as a church, we're supposed to help everyone along, not to hold them back from advancing and assimilating with the culture. Because if you don't advance and assimilate with the culture, you're always going to have this barrier in growing within this country. You're always going to feel like as if you're a different class than all the Americans. So if someone sees this vision that sees, look, my kids are not going to be able to speak Arabic. My grandkids will definitely not be able to speak Arabic. Our orthodoxy goes beyond the language. Then everyone and every church should be pushing everyone along. The problem is when you have an influx of people coming from Egypt, how do you still cater to them and their needs and give them the warmth and the love that they need, and at the same time make sure that you encourage them to assimilate? It's a very challenging. I have, the blessing of serving in two churches. I serve in St. Mary and St. Oviedo, which is a typical Coptic Orthodox church, and I'm serving in St. Athanasius, that's American Coptic. And I see the dilemma. An American cultural thing, for example, is a nice example of how we start on time and we end on time. We are very punctual. There's time limits. If there's a servants' meeting, only the servants are allowed to come, and so forth. It's sad, but a lot of the Egyptian culture doesn't really work well with very strict coming in on time and leaving out on time. So if you have a truly someone coming from Egypt, all of a sudden you start on time and end on time, they might take it as if there's something wrong, not as if it's something good. But in American culture, that's the basis. That's the norm. So I hope that all the churches really focus on the Americans, but along the way we cannot be a barrier for people. Because what we realize as well is that if we continue to struggle to assimilate, there's a lot of generations that are going to leave the church just because they don't understand Arabic. That they come and with their kids, and their kids cannot understand, and if you're not going to speed up the service to make it all English, they're just going to leave. And hence why we have the American Coptic Orthodox churches to kind of solve that problem.
Yeah, and I think, I know I can speak to it. Karen, did you grow up here or did you grow up there?
I grew up here. I moved here when I was 7, so I pretty much grew up here. But that was actually my main struggle is I would go to church every Sunday. And yes, I mean, I'm happy I'm going to church and I'm getting something out of it. But it wasn't until kind of St. Athanasius that I was just really like in the liturgy. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just got so much more out of it because it was all in English. So I just felt to me like I was understanding everything. And I speak Arabic, like I understand Arabic and everything. It's not that I don't. It's just to me, I got more out of it when it was in English.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I know, Eva, you grew up, until I think you were 16, right, in Egypt. But it's the same for me. Like, 100%, I am first generation in the United States. And for whatever reason, my parents spoke to us in Arabic, and we answered back in English. So, my Arabic is not so good. And so it's the same thing. We grew up in the church for sure. And we went to Sunday schools and Bible studies, and we did that. But the majority was in Arabic. And so, of course, there's a beauty behind it. But ultimately, like spiritually, are you going to connect? Like I look at myself now and I say, you know, thank God we had what we had, but at the same time, I have to make sure my kids have a connection so that they don't feel, you know, confused, you know. And so I definitely agree that I think that there are churches that, I mean, this is important. Like it's important because it's needed so that our kids don't leave the church. They always refer to our, you know, our generation as like the lost generation, or because, you know, our parents grew up in Egypt and then we came here and then we're submersed in this culture, you know.
We're very lukewarm in how we go to church and how we were, but that's the truth. We were very lukewarm. We just went to church because we were told that's what we're supposed to do. And, you know, I feel like now this is the most involved I've ever been in the church, and I'm very happy, doing it, thank God. So, I don't know, I think it's a great idea. And it brings me to my next question, because what you're getting is that, like, I've been going to St. Mary for a long time. I love it. It's nothing against St. Mary, but then you're getting people that ask, like, oh, where have you been? And you're going to St. Athanasius, but why? And they're like, why? Don't you miss your church? Don't you miss this? And I'm like, but I'm going to church and I'm very happy. So you're getting these kind of questions, like, so how are we supposed to respond in a sense of, like, without seeming ungrateful or not happy? You know, yeah.
So I think that question keeps coming up. You know, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, and hence, you know, why we're here, trying to clarify this misunderstanding. I think there's a bit of fear of change in general. The attitude of, oh, it's different, I don't want to associate with it, it's different. And all we got to tell people is that, look, the difference is very minute, in the sense of, okay, there's no Arabic. That's the biggest difference that you're ever going to see. Besides that, I really doubt that you're going to see a major difference between coming to our church and any other church. If you're willing to accept that for the sake of the benefit that you're going to get and your kid's going to get, because without that they might leave, a lot of times when you just talk logically like that, people are convinced. Because I have witnessed many, many people leave the church once they reach, let's say, college. That's it. They don't come to church. If they come to church, they can't associate. And if they marry outside of the church, if they marry an American person, they're definitely not going to be able to associate. So if someone as a parent can see those few steps ahead and say, no, I want to be part of an American Coptic church from now, because I want to ensure my kids grow up understanding what they're doing, and when they get to an age to go to college, that they don't leave the church. That's really the benefit. And the easy answer is come and see. Come and attend the liturgy and see. If you don't like it, that's fine. But come and see, so we don't have these preconceived ideas as if we're Americanized, as if we're this liberal, you know, diluted orthodoxy of some sort. You know, just come and see. And then people will change their minds once they come and see that we're pretty much an Orthodox church.
Exactly the same.
Maybe share with us some success stories and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd
So,
be great.
so one of the main focus of St. Athanasius is the fact that we're catering to Americans, the non-believers that never have entered a church before. So to witness an adult getting baptized, that to me is a miracle. Because again, growing up in a typical Coptic Orthodox church, we never witnessed that. It's always been babies getting baptized. So the idea of having an adult coming in on their own, or whether someone evangelized to them, and then going through catechism program and then agreeing to get baptized, that to me was, you know, a huge success story. So my first baptism was with a lady named Xavier. She was American. She doesn't know any Arabic, and by her own will, she's the one that came and wanted to get baptized. A few weeks ago, we baptized an 85-year-old lady that, again, you know, that you would not have witnessed something like this in a typical Coptic Orthodox church. 3 weeks from now, we're going to baptize another person that's an adult, that's American as well. So these to me are what this church is meant for. That, okay, this is a non-believer. If any of these people, I truly believe if any of these people would have entered a typical Coptic Orthodox church, they would have felt as if they are alienated and they cannot fit in. So having this American Coptic Orthodox church really allowed them to feel, okay, I'm an American and you're an American, we're all in the same church, we're all speaking the same language. And obviously the welcoming spirit of the church really helps. Mm-hmm. So these are 3 of the top success stories I could share with you.
So, I mean, besides we definitely established English as like the biggest difference, but like, you know, because I think it comes back to the whole, like, they say they hear American and unfortunately they hear liberal, you know, and so I think that's where the controversy, if you want to call it, comes in.
Sure.
So besides English, I mean, like, do we sing, are there different hymns? Are there, you know?
So again, all of the Coptic hymns that you're used to listening to, now they're English hymns. And even our deacons, when they start singing the same hymns in English, they too kind of say what Karen just said. I'm like, wow, now actually I get what we're saying. Again, I love Coptic, but when you're praying in the church, it should be the same language that you pray in at your own home, in your own room. I doubt that any of us go to our room and start praying in Coptic, right? So in the church, it really, I know the significance of Coptic and I appreciate the Coptic language as a whole. But to get everyone in the same church to sing together spiritually, it's really difficult to do it in any other language but their own native language. So even the deacons that are used to singing everything in Coptic, when they sing it in English, they too learn a lot from the spiritual aspects. But besides that, I really doubt, besides the food that we eat, I really doubt there's any major differences. The controversy really, a lot of people think when it started, it was almost like a diluted version of Orthodoxy. They thought that it's going to be a diluted version of Orthodoxy, that we're going to have like an hour liturgy, that we're just going to say, okay, no fasting Wednesdays and Fridays and just do whatever you want. That it's that kind of thing. And unfortunately, because there's so many different examples of an American Coptic church or a Canadian Coptic, the concept has not stabilized enough that people be like, oh, now I understand it. People still reference, oh, so is it going to be like this church in Canada? Is this going to be like this church in the US? Is this going to be like this church? And because every church, by its nature, has its own culture, we can't generalize. We can't say, yes, it's going to be like this church. No, it's a Coptic Orthodox church that is catered for Americans, second-generation Egyptians, and Americans. But there's nothing that is majorly different. To me, I actually try to emphasize more the orthodoxy, more of the patristics, because if people really understand what orthodoxy is, then they're not going to be afraid of switching from Arabic to English. They won't be, scared to switch from Coptic to English, because I know what orthodoxy is. If you don't know what orthodoxy is, then you'll hold on to anything that you feel is orthodoxy. We have arguments like, oh, unless you read this spiritual book in Arabic, you haven't read it. You're not orthodox enough. I don't know what that means, if there's a measuring, But now, so our role is to ensure that everybody knows what orthodoxy is. So whenever someone gets into debate, oh, you're not an Orthodox church, we're like, no. We know what orthodoxy is, and it's based on these things.
There's a lot of confusion between maybe the cultural aspect and orthodoxy is what
That's right.
hearing.
I think what comes down to a lot of times too is people are always afraid of like the unknown in a sense,
Sure.
and it's new. It's definitely new. So especially we were getting an influx of people coming from Egypt recently, and so to them, like, they actually want, to feel comfortable. So they want the Arabic, which makes a lot of sense. But again, we need to cater for the people that are here. We're getting a lot more second generation, like you said, you're getting a lot more people that are leaving the church because they just don't feel that zeal for the church anymore. So what can we do ourselves to help, in a sense, with the American Coptic Orthodox Church? How can we help grow it? How can we help evangelize? Like, what can we do personally?
So the best thing they could do is to be part of the church. The presence of one individual in St. Athanasius, as it's just about to start, on a weekly basis, is the best thing that you could ever do. Why? Because, first of all, you are understanding what is an American Coptic Orthodox. So whenever someone asks you, you understand it because you're going to church every week. And you're showing other people that, no, I will stick to this church. Because if every time someone comes in and leaves, someone comes in, people around you are going to wonder, should I go or should I stay? So the best service that you could start for any church that is about to start is your presence, to come and to attend on a normal basis, weekly basis. All these things help everybody around you be like, oh, Karen, I know I'm going to see her every week. Okay, great. And then as we continue to grow and mature, then we'll grow into, okay, how are we going to be able to evangelize in the US? Right now, I can't see, like, even though with all the success stories, we haven't done anything to focus on evangelism. We have a catechism program, but we haven't been really out there evangelizing. And it's only because our maturity curve is just not there. So the more that you come in and the more you're part of the church, the more you will by default evangelize and tell people about it, whether you're friends or colleagues or other Egyptians or whatever. And hence why people come now to church, because they just hear, oh, I know of this church, I've come, I like it, I'm going to tell my friend about it because he's been asking me to come to a church. Funny enough, one of the biggest things that we've received is that a lot of people that want to come to a Coptic Orthodox church, their friends stop them. They didn't want them to come to a Coptic Orthodox church until they start coming to St. Athanasius, and then they say, okay, now I'm going to bring them. And it's sad, but these are the kind of stories that you hear. So all of a sudden, they're supporting their friends' journey by inviting them to a church like ours. So the short answer is come to church.
And I can relate to that though, because growing up, I always, the American friends would spend the night and then they'd by default come to church with me. And I mean, 3 hours, all a different language, I wanted them to see what our church was, but how can they connect, how can they benefit? But it's just completely different when you hear the exact same liturgy in English and the connection you have.
All right, Buena, so you mentioned a little bit about the catechism program. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. So we had to develop a program to make sure that if anyone comes from an American coming into the church, we have something for them. So we developed a program that really focused on 3 major areas. One is actually educational and knowledge-based. So there's information that they have to learn about the church. One is experiential. They have to come and experience a church. It's not just an online course that they take and they write a test or something they submit and then they get baptized. And the third aspect is spiritual, where it's one-on-one with myself to make sure that we start their journey on the spiritual path. So after they get baptized, it's not like, oh, what is this whole fasting thing again? Why do I need to pray? So it's almost like getting them ready. So the knowledge one is basically I sit with them one-on-one and we discuss certain aspects of the church. I mainly focus on the sacraments and the Orthodox faith when it comes to salvation and the rites of the church. And then the experiential, they come at different parts. So I make sure that they come to at least a Vespers on a regular basis. They come to liturgy, they come to prayer meeting, they come to a Bible study. Again, they need to experience the church. They need to come in and look at the priest and see the incense and ask questions about their experience and why we do certain things. And the spiritual side is really one-on-one, to really ask them to start praying using the Agbeya. We make sure that they read the Bible. We make sure they read the right Bible, because everyone comes in with a different Bible. Make sure that we're reading the right Bible, that they even start fasting, even at a shorter intervals. All these things help them that once they get baptized, it will just be a continuation. And this way, they can easily integrate in the church and streamline their path without having any hiccups along the way. So hopefully this is more of a comprehensive program that helps them not only on the knowledge side, but the experience side as well as the spiritual side.
Wow. How long does it typically take?
Everything depends on really the person's background. If we have someone that's an atheist, there's going to be a bit of upfront work when it comes to the knowledge side to get them to a level where they can actually go ahead and get baptized. My experience so far is that usually they have some sort of a Christian background, whether it's Protestant or a Catholic, and then you could kind of build on that and maybe discuss more the differences between their previous faith and Orthodoxy. But the beauty of this is that it is customized to the individual. There are some people that are eager to learn, and then within 2 months they love it so much, then they can go ahead. And some people require more time. So we're not trying to make it set course as if it's like a university course, it's like a 2-month thing. No, the more we cater it to their journey, because we are part of their journey, so we cannot just dictate to them. But it's a fine balance where you need to expose them enough to the church and how much treasures we have, but at the same time you don't want to burden them and say, oh, unless you fast 40 days and Wednesdays and Fridays and all the Bible readings inside out, then you could actually become. So it's a balance that I'm constantly asking God to give me the wisdom, because some people don't get it, how much treasures we have, but at the same time I don't want to be a burden on them by saying, okay, you have to learn so much before you get baptized.
That is a really great program. So, it seems so beautiful. It really is the whole what the church has to offer especially for the newcomers. It's so built around people to know more about God and who is He that we serve. But what challenges have you experienced by serving in that church at Winna?
Sure. So some of the challenges are really, like we talked about before, about just the idea that there is a change, that people will experience a change. It's not a major change, but some people are very, very reluctant. And sadly, the biggest challenge really came from our own people. It didn't come from the Americans. It really came from our own people, that either they don't know enough about the American Coptic Orthodox Church, so they're kind of saying it's Americanized. You know, I hear things like, oh, no, don't go there. They're too Americanized. They're too liberal. They're too whatever, without really knowing what it is. So it's all these misconceived ideas, and it's not going to be orthodoxy, or it's not going to be this, or it's not going to be that. But what I tell people is that I'm blessed to be able to read and write Arabic and to be able to read and write English. So if someone has an issue, they could still come and talk to me in Arabic, and I could still explain to them in Arabic. But I'm hoping that we could clarify all this noise around what is this church and why. And some people think we're creating a division in the church, and it's quite the opposite of that. We're actually catering to a group of people that are leaving the church. So we're actually trying to make the church whole again. Other challenges really come in from just growing pains of a new church. You know, people still come in with their own ideas of, no, an American Coptic church should do this because I see another church doing it, or no, we need to sing more songs during liturgy that are not Coptic, that we stop talking about patristics, it's too hard for people. All these ideas about what they have seen in other churches that still classify themselves as American Coptic or Canadian Coptic, and they trying to implement it. But every church has its own culture. Every priest has a certain emphasis what they want to do. And it's because it's still early enough, people want to kind of leave a stamp of, oh, this is my church, I'm going to do it this way. But all we got to say is, like, the Holy Spirit is the one that's really guiding the church along, and we're holding on to our orthodoxy no matter what. So anything that's remotely against our orthodoxy, that's where I kind of draw the line to make sure that, no, this is going to be a Coptic Orthodox church to its fullest level. Actually, we need to be more Orthodox than any other typical church, because the Americans that are coming in are asking us questions that a typical church is not going to be exposed to. Why do you do this way? How do you know that you should be making the sign of the cross this way and not the other way around? Where is your reference for these things? So we need to be more Orthodox than other Coptic Orthodox churches, because most likely other Coptic Orthodox churches don't get asked these questions. Everybody just grows up in the church knowing this is the way we've done it.
Abuna, where could we go for more information about this?
You could visit our church website. It's www.stathanasiusorlando.org. That's the best way you could find out more about our church and our services and everything that we're trying to do.
Great. Well, thank you for coming and joining us today and debunking some myths around the American Coptic Orthodox Church. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bye.